Everybody stand and put your palms together, please. And just repeat the first phrase after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
Finding comfort, safety, and protection in the enlightened being within me, knowing that I have the ability to suffer less every day. I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
Finding comfort, safety, and protection in the teachings of the Buddha, knowing that as I come to understand the true nature of reality, I will be freed from all the causes and conditions of suffering. I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Finding comfort, safety, and protection in the community that cares for me, knowing that people who are concerned for your health and well-being are important on the path. Thank you all. So welcome everybody who braved the cold to come in. Is anybody new to Metta at all, or
In a group setting.
in a group thing? Any questions or thoughts or anything that you hope to get out of the program today? Good. Well, thank you for coming. Thanks for coming. So loving kindness, or Metta in the Pali language, is one of 4 foundational teachings taught by the Buddha. And they are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And they're taught so that we can achieve one-pointed, concentrated awareness, or samadhi. And through that, the qualities appear and transfigure the heart. Loving kindness or metta can also be used as a skillful antidote to mind states like anger and ferocious rage, which are sometimes too powerful to directly look at. So we can often rely on loving kindness in those situations. So in an erect and dignified posture, feet or knees firmly planted on the ground, spine straight. Eyes can be either closed or slightly open and unfocused in front of us. Hands can be in the lap or on the thighs. And bringing your awareness to the sensations of the breath. Following the full duration of each in-breath and the full duration of each out-breath. Creating a stable platform of present moment awareness, resting in the sensations of the breath. And now, in your mind's eye, think of someone who loves you or has loved you. a close friend, a parent, a cherished neighbor, someone you feel close to emotionally. And sensing and feeling their unconditional love for you. For you as you are or were. Not necessarily having to feel worthy of their love, but just basking in the warmth of their love for you. Visualize that love as warmth in your heart, coursing through your body. Their love is for you, just as you are or were. And if you find it difficult imagining someone who loves you in this way, just envision the feelings of someone loving you this way. The feeling of their love. And now, if it feels comfortable for you, trying to be both the source and the object of love, akin to the love of a mother for her newborn child, where you are simultaneously both the mother and the child. Feeling this love for yourself exactly how you are, without having to feel worthy or deserving, just basking in feelings of love for yourself as you are in this moment. And you might find it helpful to whisper these phrases to yourself, or hear them whispered to you from the wind or the universe or the world. May I be safe and protected and free from internal and external harm. May I be happy and contented. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may I have ease of well-being. And repeating these phrases over and over again to yourself, not like a mantra, but with awareness and feeling. May I be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May I be happy and contented. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may I have ease of well-being, far from the disease that often lies just beneath our psyche. When you're ready, and if it feels right to you, try extending the field of loving kindness onto someone that you feel close to. A cherished partner, a child, a parent, someone that you feel connected to emotionally. May he, she, or they be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May he, she, or they be happy and contented. May he, she, or they be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may he, she, or they have ease of well-being. And now, since the field of loving kindness is really limitless, extending the field to people that you barely know or know casually. The people who help you in the stores, at the coffee shops, and the restaurants. Friends of friends. And wishing them well. May they be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May they be happy and contented. May they be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may they have ease of well-being. And if you ever struggle at any time or have difficulty, you can always go back to repeating the phrases to yourself and wishing yourself well. And now, if it feels comfortable, try extending the field of loving kindness to people that you may have had difficulty with, people that you may consider more of an adversary than a friend. This doesn't necessarily mean that you're being asked to forgive them. You're just acknowledging that they too wish to be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. They too wish to be happy and contented. They too wish to be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And they too wish to have ease of well-being. And now, extending the field of loving kindness into our communities, especially to people who may be suffering, unsafe, hungry, and wishing them well. May they be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May they be happy and contented. May they be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may they have ease of well-being. And one last time, extending the limitless field of loving kindness to all beings in all directions. May all beings be safe and protected and free from internal and external harm. May all beings be happy and contented. May all beings be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible. And may all beings have ease of well-being. And until you hear the sounds of the bells, sending loving kindness excluding nothing, excluding no one, including everything and everyone. Any, any questions or comments about this meditation? Any thoughts? Yes.
Thank you for being here and spreading it. It really makes a difference, and look forward to it.
Thank you.
I find that it's easier for me to start off with generating loving kindness by going back to maybe like my 5-year-old self,
Mm-hmm.
back when I was a child. It was like a caregiver or something, translating, not here, sometimes it's hard for me to generate compassion and loving kindness from my adult self, like even today. So working on, integrating those two things.
Yeah. It's a very good comment. A lot of people, myself included, have difficulty, sending loving kindness to ourselves. But if we visualize ourselves as that 5-year-old child, obviously that 5-year-old child is deserving of love and kindness. And basically, we're no more or less deserving of loving kindness than anything else that's come together in this universe from various causes and conditions. One of the things that sometimes can help too, that's helped me, is if I look at, a part of myself, shyness and show compassion or love to that part of myself. And people maybe who have disabilities or, weaknesses, to show love and kindness and compassion. One of the tools that is sometimes used in treatment of chronic pain is to open to that pain, to be aware of that pain, and to show kindness to that pain. It sounds really counterintuitive, and yet, it's present, and it seems to help. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with John Kabat-Zinn at all. So he's a PhD. I used to think he was a clinical psychologist, but he's actually a molecular and cellular biologist. And he worked at University of Massachusetts. And he worked in a research lab, but he would kind of go down the halls and he would see all these doctors who would treat people, and he would talk to them about, how they help people in pain and stuff. And he'd say, what percentage of people do you think you could help? And the doctors would say, maybe I could help, maybe 25% of the people that I see. And he said and the doctor said, maybe 25% of them get well on their own. But then there's another 50% who don't, people who suffer from chronic pain, from anxiety, from depression, and all the physical manifestations of that. So he developed a program strictly to address the people that the doctors couldn't help. So he just said, send me people that, your worst patients. So I know, sitting in the office and, somebody comes, the fifth person with, chronic fatigue and anxiety and depression, it weighs on you. And so he said, no, send me all of these people. And he created a program that's been, widely successful in treating these conditions, and with it, tremendous burst in literature. And he started back in the 70s, so there's no literature on, managing chronic pain with meditation and mindfulness and yoga and those types of things. And the literature since has just grown astronomically and shown how stuff actually works. So other thoughts, questions?
What was his name?
John Kabat-Zinn.
Oh,
And two of his famous books, one of them is Wherever You Go, There You Are. It's an introductory. And then if you do his 6-week course, and I know Jeff always talked about 6-week courses, 6-week courses just to get you into it, to do it for the rest of your life. But the textbook for that is called Full Catastrophe Living. And what John Kabat-Zinn does is he marries the Eastern philosophy with the realities of the West. We're in a different culture, and he marries the two together, but talks about how you can incorporate mindfulness and present moment awareness into your daily life, into our stressful, full catastrophe of life, he calls it. So that was how I started on the path, 35 years ago, strictly as a medical professional, using it to help people and steer them in the direction of doing these types of things. It wasn't until about 8 years ago that I joined the temple and all of a sudden started marrying more of the Eastern principles, and taught in the prison here with a gentleman who is very, very strict Tibetan Buddhist. He's got the ponytail and he's got the whole thing, and he's very, he was a religious studies major, and he's very concrete on Eastern beliefs and reincarnation and the whole 9 yards. And then you got this, doctor over here, and it was very interesting how we were able to mesh our views, and we really didn't fundamentally disagree on other things. I think I was, a little more agnostic on some of the cycles of reincarnation and such, but interesting. So, other questions? Do people have any difficulty with sending loving kindness to people that they have difficulties with? People that they're angry with or carried grudges? I know I have, and since we do have plenty of time, I found an exercise that I think might be helpful just to address to people who are having difficulties. And I know in the prison system, people have a lot of difficulties with a lot of different people and a lot of different interactions. So let me see if I can hunt this down. I haven't committed it to memory, but so what it's going to involve doing is visualizing somebody that you've had a conflict with. And we can do it like in a meditation posture. It's probably best with the eyes closed, definitely if not closed, unfocused. And I'll kind of guide us through this this meditation or process. It's called 10,000 Things. So again, an erect and dignified posture, focusing on your breath. Trying to create a stable platform of moment-to-moment awareness, focusing on the breath. The full duration of each in-breath and the full duration of each out-breath. Now pick a situation in which you feel someone has wronged you. Be mindful of your reactions to this person, especially the deeper ones. And scan your body for any signs of tension that may result from this ill will. And now reflect on some of the various causes, the 10,000 things that have led this person to act in the way that they have. Consider biologically based factors affecting them, like pain, age, innate temperament, or intelligence. Consider the realities of their life, race, gender, class, opportunities, job, responsibilities, daily stresses. Consider whatever you may know about their childhood. Consider the major life events that they may have had as an adult. Consider their mental processes, personality, values, fears, hopes, and dreams. Consider their parents in light of whatever you know or can reasonably guess about them. Consider other factors that may have shaped their lives. Reflect on the historical events and upstream forces that have formed the river that causes their life today. And for the last few minutes, until you hear the sound of the bell, look inside yourself again. Do you feel any differently about them? Do you feel any differently about yourself and your reaction to them? So any thoughts on that meditation? Thank you.
Sometimes I have trouble finding the boundary with pity.
Yeah. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Ideally, loving kindness or compassion should be open without judgment. Pity sometimes implies, a judgment, but it is very, very difficult. In my mind, pity sometimes also assumes an outcome or a path for that person. That, we're sorry for them because, they're going through this, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And yes, they're they're probably going through something very, very difficult. And yet, that difficult thing, I know some of the difficult things that I've gone through have led to the biggest amount of growth in me personally. But it is still very difficult to, step away from the pity thing.
Yeah, the judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look for the 10,000 things, the difficult person has explanation or justification or whatever it is, or why they are the way they are. I think it's easy to slide into that territory when you're not trying to.
Yes, it is. It's very easy. I appreciate you saying that. It's very, very easy to. And yet I think we all know that carrying around anger is very destructive. From a medical standpoint, you're producing inflammatory markers that are damaging your body. You're producing cortisol, which is damaging your body and your immune system. You're producing adrenaline, which is elevating your blood pressure. And so we all know that we have to let go of that anchor. And yet, in my mind, it requires an active practice or process like this to do that. Because the brain is going to always react the same way unless we change it. That's just the way the brain is. There are a lot of psychologists, neuroscientists who still debate whether or not we have free will. And interestingly enough, if you attach electrodes to somebody's brain before they do something, and before you're aware that you're even going to do something, the brain has already sent those signals. So, again, in the present practice that Marcy has done a lot of, immediate reactions are going to depend on the work and what's put in beforehand. And so, doing practices like loving kindness and forgiveness practice and those types of things are basically helping to change the way our brains work. And Marcy and I were talking a little bit before about how, the three great mysteries, scientific mysteries of the world, there are three of them. One is what started the Big Bang. The second one is the unifying principle or theory behind quantum mechanics and general relativity. And the third is how the brain creates the mind, and in particular, consciousness. We really don't understand that. But what we do know is that the mind sculpts the brain, very much like rivers running through canyons. And it changes the brain. And the more we know, there's this term neuroplasticity. We used to think, no new brain cells are formed, after a certain age and everything. It's actually wrong. There's a tremendous amount of change and rewiring in the brain and that neuroplasticity. And so the whole secret is to change the brain in advance of these stimuli. Because once something hits, we don't have a lot of free will as to how we react. Yes, Marcy.
This weekend I had an incident where I was berated by a homeless man with the most racist tirade that I've actually experienced in quite some time. And the incident wiped me out for the weekend. I just went home and could not face humanity for a few days because I was just kind of taken back by the whole experience. And it wasn't until this very moment that I even considered that poor man is one, he's homeless and going through some stuff. And he's probably suffering in ways that I just don't understand. Yeah. For him to unprovokingly attack me verbally. And my response was immediate and out of my control. You know what I mean? Like I did not expect for my body to just shut down the way that it did. And that was just an unconscious thing, But now I know that there's bigger things at work here, you know what I mean? But whatever pain I was feeling, he must have been feeling also, at least as much as I was feeling. So, but you don't think about this stuff in the moment.
No. Thanks so much for sharing. I mean, that's wonderful. I mean, you basically, are using compassion, which is the antidote to that anger. And so many people would allow something like that to just fester for weeks and months and years. So congratulations to you for being able to.
Well, I think festering, so just to be clear, there's a lot of fester.
Yeah.
Just right now.
No, yeah.
There's been a slight shift.
Yes, a slight shift, and that's all we're trying to do. And as you know, in the prison, sometimes you just try to get people to not do anything or say anything for a short period of time. There was a prisoner, years ago, who was in a Fleet Mall program. Fleet Mall was a guy who in the 80s got popped for cocaine, and he had basically a life sentence because he was dealing. This was in the 80s. And he started the first hospice in prison. He started doing meditation. And when he finally got out, he's been here in the temple, I think once or twice, several years ago. He created this, prison mindfulness institute, and it's international. It's a wonderful thing. Before I started working in the prison, I took his course. It's a pretty in-depth course. And one of the things that one of the stories he told was that, there was this big burly guy and he was sitting in the back of the class not paying attention or anything, and at the end of the class we were talking about did you learn anything, and this guy kind of said, well, there's this guy and he pissed me off. I picked him up, I was going to throw him over the railing, and I remembered, take a breath, and I set him down. So this guy didn't interact during the whole class at all, but he remembered to take a breath, and he set him down. So, yeah, I know, gosh, this is nothing like what you went through, but, I went to the farmer's market and I pulled into a parking place and this lady just slammed the door open into my car, And so, I was really, I was kind of proud of myself because I didn't get angry. I got out and looked around. And then she started yelling at me saying, you pulled into that parking place too fast. And then I couldn't, the anger came. I still didn't say anything, but boy, I was angry for a long time. And then I'm sitting there berating myself. Well, I shouldn't be angry, just a car. I shouldn't. And yet, I've lived a lifetime of, if somebody dings your car, you get upset. But I started going back. Okay, maybe she was having a bad day. Maybe trying to figure out all the reasons that led to that, and it helped. So, in the past, I would have been angry for a couple days for that thing. I was only angry for a couple hours. So I got a long way to go, but I've come a long way. And what you went through, as I said, some people, that's a horrible thing. It's a horrible, horrible thing. And I can't imagine, sitting up here with all of my white male privilege, I can't imagine what that's like. So I think we got time for a couple more questions with people.
I'm just going to say that in myself, I find when my anger arises, it's usually because somebody has triggered some element of either injustice or triggered a fear of not feeling safe. Yeah. And so I'm angry that I'm in that position, and now I have to do all this work to, create that. I've had people hit my car and lady rear-end me, and then be like, it's no big deal. And I'm like, my neck's already jacked up from 2 other rear ends. You can't tell me, right? Just because the car isn't destroyed, that I'm not doing, things like that. I had a tow truck guy just completely off on me last week at the Cal Coast. I was pulling into the alley, and I was already entering the alley, and he came around the way, and he's waving me off, and I'm like, hold on a second, right? Because basically now I'm having to back up into double oncoming traffic to accommodate him. And so I back away, and he's still just sitting there, and I'm like, and he starts yelling at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta give me a moment to get out of your way. I see you waving me away, right? And then he starts saying all these things, and I'm like, wow, you don't even, just looking at him, you don't even know me, sir. I don't know where all this anger is coming from, but it can't be at me. Whatever you've got, and he just looks at me and just kept going on, and I'm like, just please go.
Yeah.
I was gonna go. But in that moment, you're this big guy in a tow truck, and I'm in my car, and then my mind starts future tripping about what if he gets out and hits punches my window or whatever, And so I'm having to go into fight or flight mode. I didn't start this, but and so
and
the breaths really help with going I'm okay, and do I need to have a plan of
that's right. And I think, you mentioned, the safety issues, and we have to acknowledge that as human beings, 99% of our existence was spent on the savannah as hunters and gatherers. And that fear-triggered response saved us in a lot of cases and allowed us to pass our genetics on. Now, unfortunately, that same, threat, lack of safety thing gets triggered on a regular basis by things that weren't supposed to trigger it. It was supposed to be triggered by life-threatening events. And so our bodies react as if we are in a threat situation, as if we are physically endangered. That's what happens in our bodies, because that's what allowed Homo sapiens to pass down our genes. Of the hominids, we weren't the fastest, we weren't the biggest, we weren't even the smartest. Neanderthal was bigger and stronger, and Neanderthal was smarter. We used to think, but we were able to cooperate and had these neural mechanisms. And one last thing, again, I always, excuse me for keeping on putting on my medical hat, but I always do. And so we live our lives on a teeter-totter between the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is the fright and flight, the adrenaline, the cortisol, the inflammatory markers. And that's constantly getting triggered and triggered and triggered. And so most of us are like this. The parasympathetic system, as manifest by the vagus nerve, is the rest and digest. And we're usually out of balance. And we can increase that parasympathetic system through meditation, especially a deep out breath, a deep abdominal out breath raises that parasympathetic. And so we got to kind of try to get ourselves in balance, because up here is not a healthy place to be. We want to be in balance. We want enough, stimulation so that we're alert and we can function, we can do what we want. But we don't want so much that it's harming our body. And so, when these triggers for the sympathetic nervous system come, some deep abdominal breaths just pushing all the way down. I mean, people who would come in with these rapid heartbeats, tachycardias, in the office, I'd have them do that deep Valsalva breathing, and very often you repeat the EKG and it's back up to normal. So on that, we'll close if it's okay with everybody. Everybody put their palms together. May the benefits of what we discussed be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. Thank you, everybody, for coming and braving the cold, and hope to see everybody again sometime.